Hello, it's me again. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all in good health. So, what is this video going to be about now? It's more or less going to be a continuation of my previous video, an overview of my understanding of old school RuneScape, a journey marked by relentless grind, resource acquisition, the perpetual battle against the unforgiving RNG. This adventure was truly a difficult and a lengthy one, and is only the beginning. It has been characterized by the temperance of my patience, my somewhat evolving understanding of the game's intricate economy, its combat system, and soul-crushing failed attempts at quest bosses. I've managed to attain almost 2,000 points, skill points in 9 months, or just under 9 months of me having been introduced to this game. I know it's not a sexy number like 2000, but I was really desperate to release another video, as I really enjoyed interacting with you guys in the last video. Plus, I guess I need attention to fill whatever vital piece I'm missing deep within me. So I will go through all of the skills and how I personally view them and tackle them. This is not a guide by any means. There are plenty of guides online written by people much more qualified than I am. This video is just a dive into the mindset of an absolute chill-scaping noob. It's my personal take on my journey to maxing all skills. However, whether you are a seasoned veteran or a brand new player, I really believe you might take away something positive from my personal RuneScape state of mind. So, if you wish to see how an average noobscaper navigates through the perilous lands of Gielinor in 2025, you might just enjoy this video. Before I proceed, I must talk about the last video and just how overwhelmed I am by the amount of views I received, by all your kind responses, your kind words, the good vibes. I was once again proven right about how lovely this community is. And I just want to thank you all from the bottom of my soul. And without further ado, let's get into it. Early progression. Since I had absolutely no clue on where to go, what to do, how to do, and when to do it, I was kinda just chilling in Lumbridge and Drainer Village sometimes, and for some reason being afraid to go further, believing I will encounter something dangerous and die. I was fighting goblins and cows, fishing some shrimp, cutting some trees without any purpose. All I knew is this newly discovered source of dopamine was awesome and wholesome. I must say, though, this phase didn't last long, and I ended up looking for someone to teach me the ways of noobscaping. This is why I have to shout out to Chaos Senpai, Theoatrix, Slayer Music, No Help, Spook Dog, who is severely underrated in my opinion with her guides, Patty Fatty Cake, Wild Mudcape, The Ed Boys, No Leather, 10 Boot, and least but not least, 25 motherfucking buttholes. I love that guy. Thank you all. You guys, I would never be able to get as far as I have without you. And I can't imagine the amount of work you put into your countless guides. So really, from me and from every single person in Old School RuneScape, we thank you. So, after having consulted the previously mentioned heroes of our community, I was unanimously ordered to focus on questing. Whilst looking into quests, I realized that all quests have different skill requirements, both combat and otherwise. So my gamer instinct told me to spread my love across all skills somewhat equally. So began my adventure in my new addiction of questing. I was pleasantly surprised to find out that there are loads of quests I can do at lower levels with rather casual effort and low requirements. I didn't care much at all about efficiency or any particular order. I absolutely fell in love with the lore.
Really?
And the cheeky bits of British humour woven into the dialogues. I found myself absolutely spamming quests for days. I spent lots of time scrolling through Wiki and just geeking out to my heart's extent. Around this time, I discovered the existence of achievement diaries. I instantly loved the concept behind them. The everlasting rewards and added utility features, which are also a permanent buff to my account. I knew this was a priority, and as soon as I met the requirement for any diary, I would attempt to deal with it there and then. I'm a firm believer that quest and achievement diary is actually RuneScape's very long but a very necessary tutorial system. I learned a lot about the game, its mechanics, activities, skilling objectives, and much more just through quests and diaries. The existence of skill-specific guilds also haven't escaped my attention at this time, and there is something about this system that made me want to be a part of it. I wanted to prove myself an expert in a certain skill and be able to use the perks available within the guilds. I absolutely love some of the guilds, especially the farming guild, mining guild, and woodcutting guild, where I still spend loads of time. However, some guilds felt a bit underdeveloped. Last but not least, the collection log. I love this thing. At the start of my journey, I developed an itch to get all the skilling outfits I can. It's work in progress, and I intend to get them all. I'm only missing the hunter outfit now. Not to mention green logging everything I possibly can. A video will come on that soon too. Having these targets always set in the back of my mind, I just carried on questing and making sure all my stats are somewhat balanced. As I'd hate to be that guy with 99 strength but unable to jump over a little rock in the river or unable to cook a tasty fish to feed myself. When I wasn't able to give the game my full focus or I felt mentally burnt out from questing, I'd do my second favorite activity, which is AFKing. AFK trading, that is. Motherlode mine, shooting stars, fishing, woodcutting, smithing cannonballs, nightmare zone, blood rune crafting, you name it. I've done it all. I'm an AFK aficionado. This is where I split the video technically into 3 sections: combat skills, utility skills, and gathering skills. I will go over each and every skill and touch on my mind state and the way I approach every skill on my road to 99 maxing. The first is going to be combat. That is, of course, attack, strength, defense, slayer, mage, range, and prayer. I remember getting my first attack, strength, and defense skill points mostly through questing, just like every other skill to be honest. I did some little baby slayer training here and there, but it was negligible. In fact, I don't recall a time when I specifically focused on one particular combat stat for any reason. Anytime I wanted to raise a certain combat stat for a quest boss, I'd simply go and do 1 or 2 slayer tasks and I was golden. Anytime I was forced to fight anything, I would use the attack option that would give me shared experience gain, as I am obsessed with balancing out my stats for whatever reason. I learned a little late that strength is actually the primary factor when it comes to melee damage, and I simply didn't care enough at the time to do any research on this as I was having too much fun questing. I didn't care about gear that much, and I was too broke to afford anything anyway. Anything from a bronze dagger to a rune scimitar made me happy, and I was content to use whatever tiny upgrade I found along the way. The way I approached the ranging skill was, say I was struggling with any enemies in melee, I would simply switch to whatever low level ranging option available to me. I learned that I could kite my enemies back and forward whilst shooting them with my trusty bow, saving myself from having to face tank scary enemies. I was so young and innocent at the time. These days I almost never use a ranged weapon for killing enemies unless it's a specific requirement, and most of my ranged experience came from a dwarven cannon. It just feels so overpowered and satisfying seeing all these damage splashes all over my enemies. I can imagine at higher level I'll have to utilize a stronger ranged weapon as my main source of damage. As a side note, ranged guild sucks compared to others. Please Jagex fix it. Magic. As for magic skill training, I understand now there are many ways one can become a wizard in Gillinor. Yet at lower levels I train mage skill by shooting spells at enemies with a particular elemental vulnerability. Perhaps it wasn't the brightest idea, considering I was too broke to waste my golden runes, but I just wanted to feel like Gandalf casting ice at fire demons. These type of combats reminded me of Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or something. I think it's the vulnerabilities and strengths of each monster type and having to deal with them accordingly. It reignited the love I had for MMOs almost my entire life. Later on, I discovered something called Mage Training Arena. I realize now that actually everybody hates this place, but I kind of enjoyed it. It was a cheap way to train magic, and rewards were awesome. The Infinity Robes was by far the strongest magic gear I've managed to get my hands on at the time, and it's worth millions. Along with a wand that allows me to cast spells from Ancient Magic Spellbook. It helped me complete a very tough quest called Song of the Elves. Additionally, I learned how to arrange my spellbook in a way that helped me deal with different magic-related tasks in most efficient manner. For instance, reorganizing the order of spells for efficient high alchemy usage, or casting spells on the go when I was using telekinetic grab to move a statue around in Mage Training Arena. I realize I can apply the same principle to all other offensive spells and even ranged attacks when I'm fighting monsters or players. If done correctly, I can shoot without really interrupting the flow of my movement. I'm sure this will come handy. We'll see. Magic skill contributes 70% to your magic defense against enemies, which is massive. Magic is much more than just a combat skill though. Its utility is such an important upgrade to your account. Not training magic as early as possible is literally griefing yourself in my humble opinion. I would even argue everyone should train magic first, at least to get the first few teleports to main cities, so you can travel around a lot easier. Travel in general was a very big problem for me as a new player. Luckily, magic is one of those skills that you can level without any damage to your bank. There are many ways to break even while gaining levels or even make a little profit. It's important to know that. I believe magic skill should be one of the higher priority skills during your account progression on your way to maxing. The next combat skill I want to touch on is prayer. So I was kind of shocked to find out that RuneScape doesn't have the usual mana-based system that plagues every other game in the history of humanity. I've realized quite early that prayer in this game isn't just an integral part of the combat system, but it's also kind of bloody overpowered, especially when you have overall low combat stats. I just had to read the descriptions of prayers like Protect from Melee and Piety, for example, to see just how game-changing this skill is. Once again, because I was lucky enough to quest at early levels, most, if not all, of my skill points came from quest rewards and experience lamps and random events. However, around level 45 plus, things started to really slow down, and I decided to invest heavy amounts of gold into this skill due to my belief of how life-changing prayer is. I found the cheapest bones I could find, crushed them into blessed bone shards, and sacrificed them all at a libation bowl. And It's an absolute dopamine overload. It made me happy. Returning to Slay activities with prayer level 98 felt like a whole new experience, which brings me to my next point, Slayer.
Now, everybody just calm down.
This is the skill I'm looking forward to maxing the most. Slayer is what it says on the tin, obviously. It's about slaying monsters and feeling like a hero. One of the things I did, which I'm happy about, is only training combat when I needed Slayer skill levels for whatever reason. And that is my personal advice to anyone. Combine any combat training when you need to level up your Slayer. I wouldn't train any combat skills unless I wanted to do some Slayer and vice versa, with the exception of magic. This just made sense to me, especially considering I wanted to have a healthy balance of numbers on my stat sheet. I want to say something controversial about Slayer skill, and it feels like it is the main skill of the game. It even unlocks a lot of bosses, which are only accessible once you reach a certain Slayer skill level. However, I don't believe it should be maxed first, or be focused over other skills at all, at the early mid game anyways, as in order to do Slayer skill efficiently and with minimum suffering, some good combat stats are required, as well as gold to support your Slayer habit. The drops and rewards during early Slayer levels feel totally negligible, and maybe even actually detrimental to your overall financial state. The food and potions required really add up. Also, God forbid you get a bad task at low levels, it might really make you feel salty about this skill and about the game in general. I'll give you an example. At around level 60 or so, I received an elf task which I could only kill in one certain area. It was very hard to get to that area and back, and the elves themselves were too strong for me to kill. I would have to teleport back and forward to keep myself alive and to consistently restock on food and potions. It felt anti-fun. I shit you not, it took me about 2 days to deal with this task, and I couldn't skip it because I just spent my points on Slayer Helm reward. Anyway, like I said, this skill kind of sucks at lower levels, and my take on this is you just have to endure through the pain, but definitely focus on other skills to fund your Slayer skill financially. There are many benefits to focusing other skills before Slayer on your way to maxing, which aren't limited to generating gold to buy gear. For example, one reason to focus on other skills before Slayer is to gain utility items that will improve your Slayer skill experience dramatically. I'm talking about things like herb sack from the farming skill, gem bag from mining, regen pouch from herb law, soul bearer, bone crusher, ash sanctifier, and many others. These utility items really spice up your Slayer experience, as it will allow you to carry more stuff, leading to more profitable Slayer trips. Less running back and forth to the bank, less dropping items on the ground, plus makes your inventory bag look nice and neat. Imagine dropping all these expensive herbs and gems, for example. It will definitely add up to millions before you even hit 99 Slayer. So why not make your life easier and more profitable, since I'm trying to max all skills anyway. Most importantly, since this is an RPG, you want to feel like a well-prepared adventurer and not some run-of-the-mill item dropping amateur. This game is all about how you make it feel for yourself. I suppose having a completionist mind state also helps. Saying that, I believe Slayer skill is the most quote-unquote fun once you get the hang of it. When I reached around level 70 combat with some decent gear for that level, I was breathing through the Slayer skill, or the Slayer tasks. A big boost was definitely the Dwarven Cannon. It speeds up the task dramatically and just feels so good. In this next section, I want to touch on the gathering skills of RuneScape, or what I believe to be the gathering skills.
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
As the name suggests, these are skills that lead to acquisition of different resources, which then can be used either for combat, crafting, or utility. Very simple. I want to preface the entire section with the fact that most of the early level skill points came through quest rewards once again. Starting with the simplest of the Gavor skills, which in my opinion are mining, fishing, woodcutting. Then there are farming, runecraft, thieving, and hunter, which are a little more complex in my humble opinion. Mining. Notoriously viewed as boring by a large segment of the community, it is a very slow drip of experience, and I am not a big fan of clicking my fingers off farming iron or free ticking iron or whatever it's called. I approach this with a full-on AFK mentality. I abused this skill whilst I was at work, shopping, chilling with my real-life friends, watching movies, you get the point. I refuse to give this skill my entire focus, not because I dislike the skill, but because I simply didn't enjoy click-intensive methods when it comes to mining. I don't gain pleasure from getting a cramp in my fingers and dropping all the resources I mine. I think it's kind of anxiety inducing, and it's just not something I would suggest to anyone. Unless you're like going for some type of a record or something, I don't know. So yeah, Motherlode Mine was my go-to choice, and I really advise everyone to level their mining this way. I think the resource gained from this activity is severely underrated. I used all of its resources for skills like fletching, crafting, and smithing, and I still have tons of materials left over from what I acquired in the Motherlode. Plus, it's really satisfying emptying that big sack for tons of ore, banking it all and doing it again. I'm crazy about Motherlode. Overload is not the most exciting skill, of course, I agree, but it really contributes heavily to the whole chillscaping mechanics of this game. It is something you can do when you're feeling burnt out, lack the focus or the mood to do anything else in the game. Just go AFK and Motherlode. Speaking of AFKing, similarly to mining, in my opinion, fishing is also a chillscaping skill. Of course you can do the whole one ticking this fish and three ticking that fish, but it's not something I would advise. Like, why would you kill yourself for absolutely no resource gain? Once again, it's like, are you in some sort of a rush to get to 99 fishing? Personally, I wasn't, and if you are anything like me, I suggest you just focus on Temperos, and then follow it up with anglerfish, sharks, dark crabs, carambuans, depending on your skill level and your mood at the time, of course. Also worth to mention, the first 10-30 levels probably came from quest rewards. If you're itching for something more engaging, do 1-2 hours of Temperos, or however long you can stomach it, and gather all the rewards, then use the spirit flakes that you receive from Temperos on expensive fish like anglerfish. It's really satisfying. AFK as hell, massive profits for the focus invested. Before you know it, you've watched a couple of movies and you have 4 or 5 million gold worth of fish stacked up. Anglerfish and Temporos were one of my largest financial contributions to my account, to be honest. Anytime I needed an emergency gold injection, I would simply sell all the fish I had. Very similar to mining, I think this entire skill can be AFK trained to your heart's pleasure. If you still haven't had enough of AFKing, may I suggest woodcutting? Just like mining and fishing, I don't remember paying any focus to this skill whatsoever. I think this skill should be treated just like mining. Get to the stage where you can cut yew trees and begin your AFK chillscape. And please, for the love of God, don't be lazy. Bank your precious logs. I see so many players too lazy to run 15 tiles to the bank. I've gathered millions worth of logs dropped by players. Yes, millions. Additionally, I really advise everyone doing woodcutting to focus on forestry event. Anytime you want to do woodcutting, do forestry. It's very low effort and low focus required. Join the forestry world, go outside Sears Village Church, and let the gains roll in. The anime-infused bark you get from this event is a really cool currency, which unlocks cool cosmetics and utility rewards, as well as massive gold rewards via selling of the axe handles, forester rations, and secateurs blades. Trust me, it's worth it, and forestry really isn't as bad as people make it out to be. I love forestry. The next gathering skill is farming. So, unlike woodcutting, mining, and fishing, farming is a lot more engaging if you want it to be, due to having a choice between growing trees or doing allotments and herb runs. So, I personally sometimes combine both. In my humble opinion, this skill should be left until you have acquired all the relevant teleport transportation abilities to access all of the patches. You can ignore the elf cities of Letia and Prifddinas for later, as these are locked behind quite a few difficult quests. Honestly, I can't even imagine how anyone would train this skill without being able to travel fast, since all farming patches and tree patches are spread all over the world, quite literally. And with the exception of the desert of Al Kharid and the swamp of Mauritania, understandably. Which brings me to the next point, trees. Growing trees is perhaps the most efficient and relaxed way of training farming. It's not going to be as fast as teleporting between allotment patches all day long, but it can put you in a very enjoyable loop of planting trees, getting on with your other stuff, and then returning for that sweet dopamine drop once the trees have matured. Even cheaper trees like willows will grant you a considerable boost during lower levels. The only downside is, of course, you will acquire almost no resources from training using the tree method, and trees can take anything between 5 hours and 3 days or even longer to grow in case of hardwood trees. It is important to mention, farming skill is one of the main, if not the main, source of acquiring herbs required to progress your herblore skill. So it could be beneficial to do allotment herb patch runs at some point, regardless of how awesome the tree method is. Nonetheless, I very strongly advise everyone to start growing their trees as early as you possibly can. I know it can be a hassle to create the saplings and such, but you get used to it very quick, and it's extremely rewarding and kind of immersive, so just do it. Just make all the saplings in bulks. Please don't make saplings every time you're going for a tree run, it will just annoy the hell out of you. Make a few hundred of different saplings and let them just marinate in your bank or vault. It really does make you feel like a real farmer person. It's a role-playing game after all. As a bonus tip, I want to say that do Hespori boss as soon as you're able. She is very easy and gives tons of farming experience.
Everybody calm down.
Runecraft. I know there isn't much positive to be said about Runecraft. Yes, I treat Runecraft as a gathering skill since it is essentially used to gather runes. I mostly agree with RuneScape community's take on this skill. Something feels slightly off and I'm still struggling to put my finger on it. Even with the Guardians of the Rift minigame, something feels off. Needless to say, it's a very slow and grindy skill, but that isn't what makes it feel bad. Personally, I've come to understand that the trade-off between the intensity of the Runecraft training method and the experience rate isn't balanced very well in my opinion. For the amount of focus and intensity required to sufficiently complete Guardians of the Rift, the experience gain feels like a slap in the face, honestly, compared to most, if not all, other skills in the game. Of course, I understand that you gain a lot of runes which are integral part of the game and can be used to turn into massive profits. However, the experience rates still feel like a heavy burden. If I was in a position to give Jagex any advice, I would advise them to perhaps reduce the financial gain from this skill, but buff its experience rates. Even if it's 5-10% buff to experience gain, it will still be a massive grind fest, but will feel much better in my opinion. Anywho, I'm still making my mind up on this skill. So far, I've only tried 2 training methods, which are the Guardians of the Rift minigame, and right now I'm crafting blood runes at Zeya Altar as I edit this video. I would like to say that, contrary to popular belief, blood rune crafting at Zeya is far from AFK. I would call it a low intensity training method. It's the type of activity I advise you to do if you're watching something on YouTube or doing some low intensity real life activities, but it's most definitely not AFK by any means. However, I love this method as the monetary gain from this is tangible, and within 2 or 3 hours I accumulated near around 2 million gold or even more worth of blood runes. It is nothing to be scoffed at for noobscapers like myself. Try it, you will love it, and it's a good way to chip away at that dreaded runecraft skill and make that much needed cash to support any other skill of your choice. Speaking of skills that I find less appealing, thieving. Thieving. This skill isn't very exciting, to be honest, and I think Jagex should do a lot more with this. It simply doesn't compare to other gathering skills in my opinion. I heard there are some higher level thieving activities like stealing from vampires, but I haven't reached that far yet and can't comment on that. But I understand it's heavily RNG based, right? Based on how often you get one item from those vampires. It's not the best in my opinion. What I can comment on though is how it feels. It feels like ass. Getting stunned in this game is very annoying, and I wish Jagex removed this mechanic from the thieving activities. I mean, it doesn't add nothing to the skill except just pissing me off. There is a thing called Pyramid Plunder, which is okay, and I've used some of it, but you get poison in there, which can be counteracted of course, but it still feels kind of annoying having to deal with all these little interruptions. Once again, it adds nothing to the skill itself except annoying people. It is profitable because you can steal gold from NPCs, but you gain no actual resources, just tiny bit of hard cash. It is very far from being the best moneymaker, considering how click intensive it is as well. There is a rogue outfit which doubles your loot you get from thieving, but even that doesn't make up for the annoying stun mechanics and all the other stuff you have to endure every 5 seconds or less. If I had to rate this skill compared to others, I'd say it's 2-3 out of 10 at best. It is totally unnecessary to train, in my opinion, unless you need it for a quest or a specific diary achievement. Other than that, I honestly don't care about thieving, so sadly. Agility Pyramid is probably as good as you get with this skill, and that is sad. I want to lighten the mood up a bit with the Hunter skill. I believe this skill is utterly underrated for how easy, satisfying and profitable it is. I mean, the birdhouses alone funded majority of my RuneScape adventures. I have made millions from this skill. I am tempted to say this is by far the most important skill to help you with gold problems early and mid-game. It was my main source of clues, seeds, which I sold or turned into materials via the farming skill, which in turn earned me more profits. My construction and prayer skills were both funded solely by hunter skill alone. Please don't ignore this skill. Get to it early. Do the birdhouses, you will not regret it. I am almost at max level hunter now, and guess what? It all came from birdhouses and a couple of quests. Just stay consistent with the birdhouses and you won't need to do hunter clues or anything else. You can easily max your hunter skill just by doing birdhouses whilst earning tons of gold. Speaking of the hunter clues though, it also feels quite overpowered in terms of how much loot and XP you get for the amount of effort and time invested. And it's quite engaging, it's far from boring and kind of immersive, to be honest with you. Traveling to different parts of the world to capture different game, not to mention the rewards that come with the completion of each hunter clue. Cool cosmetic rewards as well. as well as expensive meats and bird nests that can be sold for good gold. I would also want to add that aerial fishing is actually an underrated source of hunter XP, but I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. However, I advise everyone to try this activity as the experience gains from the aerial fishing are quite good, and they're spread between hunter, fishing and cooking. So I only wish the devs expanded on this skill more, allowing us to hunt some monster beasts and somehow differentiate it from the Slayer skill while making it relevant to hunter skill progression. The last section of this video I want to touch on is the utility skills. This is where I believe a lot of disagreements might arise. In this game, I consider skill to be utility if it doesn't fall into gathering skills or combat skills. Simply put, any skill that contributes to efficiency of another skill is in fact a utility skill. I messily jumbled these skills into one section for simplicity's sake. These are construction, agility, herb law, magic, crafting, fletching, smithing, cooking, and fire making. I'll start with the skills I'm least impressed by. Crafting, fletching, smithing. I put these three in the same category for a reason, and I will briefly go over it. Crafting is making jewelry, staffs, pottery, glass, and light armor. Fletching is making arrows, darts, bows, and crossbows. Smithing is making heavy armor and metal weaponry. Sounds lovely, right? Well, the thing is this, I am 90 plus in all of these skills, and I have not even once used those skills to make my character stronger in any way. It adds zero utility to the game, even though it's a utility skill. It adds nothing, in my opinion. Problem is, all good stuff is coming from bosses mainly, so what the hell is the point of being able to craft any armor, or any weapons, or any bows, or anything really? It really saddens me because I leveled smithing as one of my first skills, expecting to make some good armor for myself, but it turns out I can't make anything useful at all. Same goes for fletching and crafting. You can't craft, fletch or smith anything that's actually useful to your character. I don't recall even one instance where I was like, oh thank god I leveled my fletching. Like, these three skills are very weak, and I can't even be compared to other things like construction or magic, for example. I think Jagex should do much better on this front. He just made me really sad. On top of that, all those skills are extremely boring to train, with the exception of smithing maybe, because it has at least the Giant's Foundry method, which is quite cool and good experience and gold as well. But crafting and fletching really would benefit greatly from some kind of a mini game or a boss killing activity such as Tempros or Winterdot, because at the moment all crafting and fletching is standing outside the bank and clicking the same item millions, thousands of times. So from what I consider to be least useful to a skill that I consider to be quite useful, herb law is, the way I see it, is absolutely essential for PvM. Many high-end bosses and quality of life purposes like boosting skill levels and stamina, for example. However, is quite expensive to train from what I gathered. One of the most costly skills, in fact, in the game, unless you use slow, low-cost methods. It's very slow if you're unwilling to sink silly amounts of gold into it. Personally, Kingdom of Miscellanea feature funded me with a lot of herbs, which I then turned into paste for the mixology minigame to level up my herb law. If I actually had to rate herb law, I'd say it's a B tier skill overall, or a strong 6 or 7 out of 10. Reasons being, it's extremely useful. Of course, you can't really acquire potions from any other sources in the game in a consistent manner. However, training herb law seems a bit it's, like I said, it's expensive as hell. It's very monotonous, Use herb on wild and mix with an ingredient. Also, the fact that you can only create like 7 potions at a time is kind of lame. However, I do see just how important this skill is regardless. In my experience, this skill isn't profitable at all, neither, and it's a gold sink in general. The addition of the Mastering Mixology minigame is a good touch though. The rewards are very cool and I love it. However, the game itself doesn't feel very good. I kind of have a problem with the potion creation process feeling a little clunky, and there is a huge disbalance between the blue and green and red points that you acquire in the minigame. And there is basically nothing you can do about that except maybe doing the game after your level 81 herb law, which will allow you to unlock all of the potions options for that minigame. If you start this game, say at lower levels, you will have thousands of blue points but close to nothing red and green points. And no, it wasn't just bad RNG. I have spent a considerable amount in this place, considerable amount of time, and the lack of balance across 3 points is atrocious. I have no idea why they made it this way. It would be nice if we perhaps could trade X amount of blue points for Y amount of red points, for example. My advice for trading this skill would be to use the least expensive method, even if it means you will gain less experience per hour compared to other methods. Because the problem, as I see it, is the increase in gold per experience gain with each experience point is actually disproportionately huge. So say if you're making 100 XP per hour and that costs you 100 gold. Now if you make 200 XP per hour, that will cost you like 500 gold, and it just keeps increasing like that exponentially. Overall, leveling herb law seems to be very difficult, slow and expensive endeavor in my opinion, and should be taken slowly and shouldn't be a priority by any means, since you can buy the potions from the Grand Exchange anyway. So the next utility skill is fire making, and fire making is a bit of a funny one. It is very straightforward. I mean, you drop logs on the ground, you light them. It is one of the easier and less expensive skills to level. In fact, you can even make loads of gold by training fire making thanks to the Wintertod minigame. I must say, it is very satisfying collecting the rewards from Wintertod reward cart, which include resources but also some gear. The fire making outfit, the pyromancer outfit, is especially cool. It looks amazing. I can't say fire making is this amazing fun skill, but it's definitely useful on few occasions and worth training. For example, it came in very handy when I was training prayer at Shadow of Morton minigame, for example, as fire making allowed me to burn better wood for more experience, for more prey experience, and better chances of getting the zealot robes. Additionally, fire making is quite cool because it allows you to affect certain areas of the world permanently by providing buffs in caves, lighting up dark areas so you don't have to carry light sources, saving your precious inventory space and the hassle, despite being one of the less complex skills in RuneScape. I believe fire making holds a very distinct place in the game, and I think he has a lot more coming to it from the devs. So whether for the quest progression, efficient XP training, or utility in certain areas, most players overlook its importance, I think, and mastering fire making can provide valuable rewards and contribute to a player's overall progression in old school RuneScape. The next utility skill is everybody's favorite, cooking. This has to be one of the easiest and most AFK, low intensity, relaxing skills in the game. There is something really satisfying about the sound of cooking food in this game. I love this skill. It also perfectly fits with your in real life cooking. I managed to train cooking in RuneScape while I cook in real life perfectly. It syncs up so well. It also works really good with fishing skill. Fish up as much as you can, stack it up in your bag, and then cook it whenever you have the time. There is not much to say about this skill except you should always cook in the Hesidious kitchen and make sure you acquire the cooking gloves from the quest. This will prevent you from burning your food. Additionally, you can even make meaningful profits from buying raw karambwans or anglerfish and cooking them. However, personally, I never bought any raw food to cook. I always fished my own fish and cooked them myself. Pure profit and easy XP. Cooking is amazing. So, this is the time to touch on the scariest one of them all, agility. We all know training agility sucks camel balls, and that is the experience I kind of had with it. Just running laps around the same roof thousands of times isn't anybody's idea of fun weekend. The consolation is in the fact that there are quite a lot of different roofs, but it doesn't really change much in terms of how boring and sleep-inducing this skill is. I literally train agility like half an hour before I'm planning to go to bed. It helps me to go to sleep. You're still running laps around the same roof, regardless of which area you train in. Of course, there is difference in XP, but it's just boring. I haven't tried the Hallowed Sepulchre yet, but it's worth saying the entry barrier to it is quite high, needing the completion of Sins of the Father quest, which is the hardest boss fight I have encountered so far, requiring considerable amounts of experience, decent gear, and combat levels of 90 plus at least, I believe, which is not an easy feat by any means, especially for casual escapers. So if you can't complete this quest, you are essentially locked into running laps around the roof. Yeah, I honestly can't stand training this skill more than 30 minutes at a time. Perhaps one of the worst aspects of training agility is that it sucks while not being AFKable. You have to pay attention to your screen to train agility at any meaningful rate. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's talk the positives of agility skill. Agility is very important as it enhances the player's ability to travel on foot by increasing the player's running stamina and its regeneration rates. New players might think agility helps your combat, but it doesn't at all, and as such it can be ignored for combat purposes, is my opinion or my advice. Benefits of training agility are faster run energy regeneration. Higher agility levels reduce the downtime between running sessions, allowing for quicker, obviously, travel across Grillinor. Access to shortcuts, improved efficiency in PVM and skilling. So, like the shortcuts will allow you to skip certain little pitfalls, say, and get to your point quicker. It's actually essential for certain quests. And you get marks of grace by training agility, which allows you to buy the graceful outfit, which further improves your running and your stamina regeneration rates. Although agility does not directly generate gold, it indirectly improves players' economic potential. Having a high agility level speeds up money-making activities such as rune crafting, clue scroll completion, and slayer. Additionally, marks of grace can be exchanged for amylase crystals, which are sellable for profit, making rooftop course a semi-profitable training method, but nonetheless still very boring. Agility is an indispensable skill in RuneScape in a way, offering immense utility across various aspects of the game. From reducing travel time and unlocking shortcuts, agility plays a crucial role in optimization of your gameplay. While training the skill can be tedious, the long-term benefits make it an essential investment for any RuneScape player. Whether aiming for endgame efficiency or simply seeking a smoother gaming experience, mastering agility is a wise choice, even it is a tough skill to stomach. The last skill, and perhaps the skill that had the most impact on my gameplay, is construction. This is the skill I got to 99 first. To this day, it is the only skill I have maxed. It has completely and utterly changed my RuneScape gaming experience, and I will explain why. Construction skill in old school RuneScape is a very intricate and multifaceted utility skill. It seems to me it is the most elaborate and thought out skill in RuneScape, maybe after Slayer. From an average noobscaper to a hardcore sweaty boss farmer, everybody can gain numerous benefits, even from the basic utility the construction skill offers, such as infinite travel and combat stat restoration through the pool. Like, you're doing Slayer and need quick rest and recuperation, well, teleport to your player owned housing, click on a healing pool, teleport right back into action. I mean, this alone made my Slayer activity and questing so much more enjoyable. And I know, yes, you can just carry your prayer potions and food with you, but I find it more satisfying to do it this way, and I don't like spending gold on things like food and potions, to be honest with you. Needless to say, having all your teleports in one place clears up your bank and inventory space. Of course, the sweaties are going to mention how you have to teleport 1 million times before it financially makes sense to spend all that gold to level construction. But they will never tell you how annoying it is to keep wasting runes and teleport tabs, and because you forgot something like a knife or a hammer in your bank, and now you have to come back, and now you're standing there staring at your bank. It's not fun. With construction maxscape, your mind is at ease because you will never have to worry about carrying the right teleport tabs or runes and thinking 50 times before you leave your bank. Though construction skills is perhaps the most expensive skill to level, the peace of mind it provides is priceless in my opinion, and that's the key. Doing clues, for example, and you need to teleport every 2 minutes to different parts of the world, well, there is a Nexus portal in your player-owned house. Enjoy. You need to teleport in and out of wilderness for PvP or those pesky clues. Well, you have an obelisk inside your house. Speaking of teleports, the construction maxscape itself provides teleports to the most annoying to get areas, and that alone is priceless. Sick of carrying all this different degrading teleport jewelry? Well, construction skill allows you to let you have those permanently installed in your house. Running out of bank space? Well, you can store all your armor inside your house. Look, I mean, you can even throw parties for your friends in your player-owned house to show off your achievements and many other things. I can go on all day, to be honest, about how awesome construction is for the progression of your account. I am the biggest supporter of maxing construction first, as soon as you can afford it. Yes, I will not lie, I had to sell almost my entire bank to fund this project back in December. But hey, 3 months later, I'm more than satisfied with my investment. I strongly advise to take the route of mahogany homes though, for leveling your construction, as it is a lot cheaper, is more engaging, and comes with monetary rewards, utility upgrades, and even cosmetic rewards, as opposed to other training methods which are just a gold drain. I repeat again, please guys, max your construction first, get your maxscape and thank me later. Finally, I want to conclude this video by saying I hope I haven't stepped out of line with some of my takes. If I have, please forgive me, I'm still only a student. This is just my own personal take and my personal experience, and as I've said in the beginning of the video. If you take one thing from this video though, it should be this game is a marathon. If you're trying to max all your skills anyway, the way I'm trying to. This is clearly an extremely long game, arguably it's an endless game. Nobody will be able to complete everything, and the vast majority will never reach any sort of leaderboards or anything of the sort. So why impose time limits and anxiety-inducing training methods? Take it easy, take it slow, and stay consistent is my advice to you all. I love you all. Be strong and be kind, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Goodbye.